What's up today, Nicole?
We're doing a new type of podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Usually we do sort of reaction We have two types that we have done so far, right? We have done reaction podcasts, sort of
Yeah.
recapping our events, and that's because we don't stream them. We do them in person, right?
Yeah.
And then we've had guests, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Where we talk about all sorts of things. This is a newfangled podcast that we're trying in this year of our Lord 2025, where Megan and I kind of talk shop in current events, and love it, hate it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a first pancake. I mean, it's not really a first pancake. I feel like it's like a new stack of pancakes.
It's not even a new pancake. These are pancakes we eat all the time.
It's true. My house kind of smells like pancakes right now because my son made like maple bacon last night, and I've been like, man,
Yeah.
some breakfast food.
Speaking of sons and pancakes, my son tried very hard all day to get me to make him pancakes because there was no school. So he was like, "Do we have stuff to make pancakes?" And I was like, "Absolutely, go for it." And he didn't make any pancakes. He was like, "That wasn't exactly what I meant." No,
he wanted you to make them
100%. And I'm like, I would love to, but I got a job. Yeah, we talk about stuff all the time, Megan and I. And so this podcast really is to have those conversations with everyone. So
yeah, so
not new pancake, existing pancake.
Maybe slightly different shape of pancake. I mean, and to be honest, the reason we didn't do any of these last year was because we just didn't have time and we didn't prioritize it. So it, we're making time this year.
We don't have the time this year either, but nonetheless.
I did almost cancel this session.
Nonetheless, we are doing it.
But we are here. We are here. Welcome to Supercharged by AI. It's a podcast by AI Portland. I'm Megan Notarte. I'm a partner at Cloud4. I'm joined by, as always, Nicole Moores, product design manager at Lithium Motors, and co-founders of all things AI Portland. So I mean, we have some things to talk about today. Like I have a list. I feel like we cannot not talk about DeepSeek because that's all over. I want to talk about the tech summit last weekend. And I also want to talk a little bit about, which now feels like ancient history, if I'm being honest, but last week, my favorite professor, Ethan Mollick, released an updated post about which AI tools to use. And so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Again, it feels a tiny bit like ancient history. I'm not going to lie. I don't know. Every day feels like a lifetime right now. Was that last year? When did that happen? No, it was like Thursday.
Yeah. It all moves so fast. What do they call it? AI vertigo?
AI vertigo. Yeah.
Those who know me know I suffer from vertigo in real life.
It's just like, that?
It's better. Like, it's better. I felt like the exercises made it worse, but then it has gotten significantly better since I started
are complaining about it way less than I would be complaining about it. So bravo.
Thanks.
It's the difference between me and you. Where should we start? Do you want to start with DeepSeek? Should we talk about DeepSeek?
Yeah, DeepSeek. I feel like you can't go anywhere on the internet right now without hearing about it. But it's just a new AI model.
Yeah. And I mean, I think listen, if you know nothing about DeepSeek, Nicole and I are not doing original reporting on what the hell is going on with DeepSeek, but you should definitely check out Platformers cover. We'll put some links in the notes as well. Platformers coverage is pretty good. Hard Fork, they did an emergency episode to talk about it, which they've only ever done once before, and that was when Sam Altman was fired for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And everyone smart out there is talking about this. So you didn't come to us for that original reporting.
No, but at the crux of it, it's just a new model. I went to go log into it to try it and I couldn't get in because everybody's trying to use it right now.
I mean, it is a new AI model, but I think the reason it's the reason that it's making waves is because it came out of China.
100%.
Sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I have not even tried it because it is just another model. It has similar-ish features. It works really well. People are excited that it works really well, but only because it was so inexpensive to create.
Yeah, I will tell you right now that I don't fully believe that it was as inexpensive as they said it was inexpensive. There's reason to believe that that number is not fully accurate, but it definitely was less expensive than the original model, like the Frontier US models. My understanding is that it was built on the top of giants, right? So it learned from these other models that already exist. So that's something like, could it have existed on its own in a vacuum? Probably not.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction to make, right? Like, this would have been, like, it is still amazing, right? But what they did was just iterate on what has already been done in a less expensive. If like the first thing of anything is always going to be very expensive, and as you sort of learn and you iterate, it gets less and less expensive because you don't have to make the expensive mistakes, right? Yeah. And that's kind of how we got to this with DeepSeek.
And the like cost of compute is coming down and all of that stuff. Like, I will sidebar. I have this thought about the way the market's freaked out, and I guess I should probably say, like, I am not a financial markets expert, but I'm just like a regular person whose impression is that like investors are smarter than me, right?
They're not. Oh my God, they're not.
No, I navigate this world being like, God, I wish I understood investing better. Like I would be really rich if I understood it. And then things like this happen. And I think, my God, as a woman, I navigate this world constantly having to moderate my emotions so that I don't seem too emotional or whatever, right? As a woman, I can't be too emotional. And then like some news hits and the markets crash because investors were so emotional, right? Like, oh man.
To me, it's just like, there is dude, it's just gambling. You know what I mean? It's just like dudes gambling and making bets. Like there's not like, I'm sure there's deep things and things to understand about it. But like when these things happen, you're like, oh shit. Yeah. This isn't actually a very complicated thing. You know what I mean?
They're worried. So they sold things.
Yeah.
I think given the way you and I kind of navigate AI, it's probably important for people to understand that there are a couple things with DeepSeek to keep in mind, and that is like its terms and conditions. One of my favorite, I guess, thought leaders, her name is Sinead Bovell. She posted today on Blue Sky about how like the app will retain user data even after you delete the app.
Oh,
so like definitely don't put anything private in that one.
See, I love this. You're always going to come back as like the responsible mom being like, remember kids.
Well, because I just think
pay attention to what it does with your data. And like, eat your vegetables.
It's like everyone was mad about TikTok and then they went and downloaded RedNote and you're just like, okay, cool, same thing. Awesome.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's the same thing with this, right? Like the app will monitor and process user input and output, including collecting sensitive information, right? Like, listen, I don't know. I guess I haven't read the T's and C's of every AI tool that I'm using, although we do dig in and try to see what it says it's going to do with our data and stuff. So I guess like just be cautious, What a moment in history. What a time to be alive.
I have a hot take.
All right.
That the current AI frontier models have a branding problem, right? And that like DeepSeek just rolls off the tongue. Like DeepSeek, you just want to say it. You know what I mean?
So it's like catchy. That's what makes it disruptive.
I think it's just fun. It's just fun. It just like the alliteration of it is just good. And I like ChatGPT. That's terrible branding. Like
it is. No one ever says like people who are not in our space like never say the GPT, right? Like a lot of times they say GTP and like
people who
whatever.
are like in the industry munch that a surprising amount where you're like, did you just say GTP?
GTP.
Did you just
we just go like ChatGPT.
Yeah. But DeepSeek is like the home run on that.
It's true. Although I keep wanting to say like DeepSeek and it's not. I had to write it down. I had to be like, oh, what are we even talking about? I haven't checked what the like now it's a few days after markets freaked out. I haven't checked to see if everyone's feeling better. I have noticed the big like Anthropic came out with some, a response that was very measured today. So it feels like maybe people are calming down, but some people have called this like a Sputnik moment, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I
don't necessarily agree with that either. I think it's really cool that it's open source and people are already starting to build with it. Like all of that seems really neat.
I mean, there is a story here about how constraints, like how innovation can flourish even under constraints, which, let's pull away from geopolitical concerns and like things that, again, people way smarter than me definitely understand. But I do think it's kind of interesting that cool things can come out when you don't have access to everything. And that's interesting. Aside from, China, US, all the like complicated things. And it also makes me think about, I mean, do we really have control over this? Like, it just calls everything into question. I mean, it probably was always in question. We just wanted to believe that like we were forging ahead, like the US was forging ahead and had some sort of control. I do worry about like safety issues being thrown out now that there's a drumbeat to like just innovate. It's going to be an interesting year.
I mean, we don't control anything.
Me and you?
Yes.
I don't control anything.
We have no control over anything.
What do we control?
Legit don't control anything.
That's true. That's part of like, it's part of our journey, right? Is actually recognizing that you don't control anything. Letting go. Let it go.
Yes.
Let it go. I don't know. I had written down like, gosh, what does it all mean? And I feel like with everything in this space, like it's such a mixed bag. Like you have to hold like innovation with constraints is interesting while also, oh my God, geopolitical tensions or whatever, like at the same time, which is uncomfortable. Nothing is clear. Nothing is.
I mean, I think the moral of that story is we'll see. You know what I mean? I think you can guess and freak out and but we'll just have to see how it all plays out.
Did you want to talk about our God, January has been it's still January somehow, first of all. I can't believe it feels like we've lived again. It feels like we lived a lifetime in the last 2 weeks for reasons. We've been really busy.
Yeah.
The tech summit happened last weekend.
Yeah,
we spoke
I think
a week before that. Like a lot going on.
The tech summit was interesting, right? It was Steam Circuit powered Silicon Forest Tech Summit. They had programming, a bunch of talks, lightning talks. They also had sort of a vendor. What was it called technically?
It wasn't like a vendor village, but
no, it was like tables with all different sorts of folks there from Portland, different companies, different cities represented, right? Like Hillsborough and the schools like PSU
and U of O. Yeah.
U of O.
I mean, can we just say, first of all, that they said that they lost their venue, excuse me, 3 weeks before the event. I do not know what happened, but like massive kudos to Yosef and Ashley and Darren for like pulling what it was a spectacular event, like a gorgeous event too. Like all the decor was so cool.
The set was great. It had sort of like a magical woodland vibe to it. So just really well done with the venue and the decorations. You can tell they put a lot of thought and care into how it was presented and to create a certain vibe. It was fun and just great job on that for sure.
We met so many people. Also, like, someday I not have massive imposter syndrome about like the people who we get to speak alongside of? Because, like, I mean, we have a new friend from NASA.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Like somebody from NASA, Marcus Delgado, was speaking, gave a lightning talk, and like talked about space and communications. That was really cool. The director of engineering at Daimler was there, and then it's like us.
Yeah. So our lightning talk, 5 minutes. I forgot my parts, which I did tell Megan I was going to earlier that day. Full disclosure.
It's true.
Yeah. Which is fine. We can't all be awesome all of the time. AI Portland, they're just like you.
The irony was our whole talk was about like the human heart of AI. How like we have learned through this year of building AI Portland that like it just puts a finer point on what it means to be human, what it means to have human connections. That was sort of the whole thing. And we just had like a really human moment, right? The lights are on us. It was very cold in there.
Yeah, you're like, why is this so cold? Like legit, we were like waiting to go on and we're like trying to keep warm. Like, why didn't I bring my gloves cold? And then we found out after the event that that particular spot in the Veterans Memorial Coliseum is right below the ice rink
for the winter.
So yeah. So we're like, oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So it was very cold in there. Anyway, it was a whole moment. It was a whole moment. But I think just overall, the day was great and it was awesome to see. Again, another event in January where people showed up. It was, just a great event. That was well done.
It was very well done and super excited to have been included with that illustrious lineup of folks. Also, if like, I still think we should record our 5-minute talk.
I just want to forget it ever happened.
We'll see if people say it. We'll give you an opportunity to chime in the comments.
I legit want to forget that it ever happened. I think it's too soon. I think it's too soon. You just want to prove like we did know our talk. You just want to prove. I'll just remind you, no one cares if we actually knew our talk.
Nobody cares. It's true. Yeah. It's true. Nobody cares. We care.
Megan cares.
You care too.
I do care.
Cares.
We both care, for the record, and we did know our talk. They're just things, Things.
We're just people. We're just people. We're just people. Anyway, I think that is a must-attend event every year. So
Agreed. I went last year. It was really interesting to see sort of the evolution from last year to this year. They definitely are like, I think last year was fantastic. This year was even more good.
Yeah. More good, better. I think we say better.
Yeah, or better. So I imagine next year will be, even more good.
More betters. All the more betters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so I wanted to switch to talk about our good friend, Professor Ethan Mollick.
We don't.
You think?
Full disclosure, we do not know Ethan Mollick.
I was just going to be like, how do we make Professor Mollick our friend? I want to be his friend. Also, like, I have so many questions for him. Like, if you follow him on social media, I know this is his job. He is a professor at Wharton School of Business. This is what he does. But he puts out a lot of thoughts and content all the time.
He does.
And part of what I wanted to talk about, we'll link to his long review of which AI tool you should use. He mentions DeepSeek in it as well. But part of why I wanted to talk about it is because Ethan Mollick has a hard time keeping up. And he is a man who literally does that for his job, right? He said he had to rewrite this document or like adjust it several times in the days leading up to when he published it. And I don't know, like over the last 2 weeks, I have felt like a significant amount of AI overwhelm. Like just if you take your eyes off the ball to like do anything else, suddenly like the game has changed completely. Like you're holding a basketball and now you're on a baseball field. Like that's how it has felt. And it made me feel a lot better knowing that our bestie, felt the same way.
Yeah, and I feel like you could spend a lot of time just struggling to stay up to date. Like, oh, I gotta go check out this. I gotta check out that. I haven't used DeepSeek. Blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure that's time well spent. Truth be told,
I think for regular people, the non Ethans of the world, and maybe even like the non Nicole and Megans of the world, like it's noise. A lot of it is noise because the reality is the tools and the things that you can leverage in your job are not necessarily the things at the far cutting edge of what is happening.
Agreed.
So we definitely encourage people to keep coming to the table. Don't just be overwhelmed. Don't like walk away, because we need everyone to have agency in what is happening and participate in what is happening. But I think there's a fine line, right? Which is don't try to not get overwhelmed.
I think Ethan's article is a great sort of like rundown of like the pros and cons and why you might choose one model over another as your sort of go-to. I feel like if you take a thing that you need to do and try it out in a thing, you will naturally gravitate to one or the other. It may not even be able to articulate why. But I think the main thing is like, I want to go to Thailand. I want to figure that out. I'm going to go into perplexity instead of just Googling. You know what I mean? Like maybe if you have a use case, just go to a thing you haven't tried before and see
what
how
happens.
It works for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like the naming of these models. It's like, why, y'all, can you not like help us out? The 01, the 04.
Yeah, I feel like that's a whole nother level, right? Like that's not just like, am I going to Claude or am I going to Chat GPT? Within those models, you have options. And it is not obvious like what the differences are between them or why you would pick one or the other. That can be, I think, to a regular person, a barrier to entry. And like you first off, like might feel like you're missing something obvious because you don't know why you should be choosing between these things, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense. So I guess like part of what I wanted to say is like, it's confusing out there. It's easy to get overwhelmed. People who are spending all their time thinking about this are also getting overwhelmed. It is the rate of change I don't feel like I've experienced in my life. And I've worked on the internet through the rise of the internet, social media, mobile phones. Like we've been through a lot of these innovations, and this does feel like a lot more.
What you're
and it's saying, probably not you.
Yeah, what you're saying is give yourself a break if you're like, I can't keep up with this. I was about to say shit.
I mean,
can we swear, Megan? See, okay, I'm going to go back to the tech summit. I asked you if I could swear on stage and say the words flesh bag, and you were like, no, right? I feel
flesh
like
bag
maybe
is so gross. It sounds
okay,
like
I'm saying like maybe if I could have,
I have to edit.
I've been
out.
more authentically me. I would have been like, oh, I forget the words. I would have been like flesh bags. No forgetting that.
I ruined that whole thing by saying boobs too many times, but that's what flesh bags sound like. Not like what you're trying to say, which is like our bodies just being these like flesh bodies.
Meat sacks?
That sounds like something else too.
Okay, we can go back to... Give yourself a break. It's impossible to, unless, even if it's your job, it's impossible to just let it go. Don't be hard on yourself. Certainly don't throw everything out because you can't stay up to everything that's going on right now. It's okay to like take your own road and stay as up to date with these things as you can, right? Don't sacrifice getting on the train because it's literally impossible to like be the conductor. You know what I mean? You can't do it.
Super agree. I want to ask you a question. I talked to some folks at the Tech Summit, and I have this like theory, and I think I've written about this on LinkedIn before, and I think it still holds true. And that is that, like, while there's a lot of exciting things happening on the frontiers, and it's coming into, you can see it kind of coming to your tooling where it's actually helping. If you do a lot of a specific kind of work, a lot of content generation, communications, like it's here. Yes, use it. But I also think that the impression you get from reading headlines is that like, if you can't make it work in your workflow, then you're doing something wrong. Like, you don't understand it. And my hot take, my sort of experience is like, maybe not. Like, maybe for your particular use case or the process you are trying to make more efficient, like maybe it isn't quite there for you yet. And it might not be you. It might just be that like either the data you have is not in a state that's like easy to make it work. The thing you're trying to do is bespoke, or like can't really leverage the generative AI powers as much as possible. And I guess I just think that like we're still in that place. Where like you might find that like, okay, the things I can use it for are these few things, but like it's not transforming everything I'm doing at my office yet.
Yeah, there's still a very real delta between like maybe the individual contributor and like supposedly this utopia world where AI unlocks all the efficiency. You know what I mean? There's a delta still there. And it's easy to be like, I just don't get it. You know what I mean? There's something wrong with me. It is not a trivial amount of work to look at what you do as a part of your job and find the use cases right now. It is not a trivial amount of work, right? And you're right, it is coming. People are companies, products are starting to draw those lines between products and people's work, but like it's not obvious right now. It is just not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm continuing to like, as I talk to people, explore this particular theory, because I do think at some point there maybe is a tipping point on like kind of everyday processes kinds of things. And like some new tools that I again haven't yet had a chance to like super dive into, seems like they could be maybe part of that tipping point. Notebook LM's Pro option, that's all Google Workspace users have access to. I feel like that's big.
I also feel like it's really hard to change human behavior. I find
that is true.
Yeah. No, I'm serious. Hear me out. Listen. I have a Copilot. At work, it's a Microsoft house that I live in, and I have Copilot, and just this, like, AI Portland, Nicole, I forget to turn Copilot on when I'm in a meeting that I really want Copilot to be in and access, so that I can be like, I want to traverse what happened in this meeting after the fact. Like, I forget 99% of the time to turn it on.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
Human behavior is hard. Like, you just are.
But I don't want it on all the time. So it's like,
no, I don't want it on all the time. Thank you very little. I do not want it on all the time. But I'm just saying, like, we've done our jobs without AI for so long, just like creating the new neural pathways to be like, how can AI like turn the Copilot on? You know what I mean? Or like hard things, you know, which is easy, but it's hard.
are there tools or things that you're using that have been game changers? I think I could list a few, but we didn't plan for this, but
Oh shit. Yeah.
I know, are there things that have been game changers for you?
All the sort of like, I turn on Copilot, I can be in the moment in this workshop, meeting, conversation, whatever. I can just be in the moment and not have to worry about taking notes or thinking about next steps or action items or whatever. All the like deliberate things that take up space in a meeting. And then I can like go off and, like I said, traverse whatever happened in that meeting in a meaningful way without having to like rewatch a video or whatever. Like that is very powerful, to offload that to an AI to be able to do. And it'll like draw things that maybe I would have to really sit down and analyze or synthesize and pull it out. Like that's a game changer. And I just have to remember to turn it on,
I mean, I agree. So I think a year ago, maybe a little more. So I do a lot of project management, right? I come up through project management as sort of my area of expertise. And one of the things I've always hated is that as a project manager, you're always doing so much. Like I'm trying to, run the meeting and, make sure that we're covering all the things we need to cover and like make sure that like we're hitting the time that we need to hit, make sure I'm hearing all the voices in the room, like doing all of that, also taking notes. And up until recently, the note-taking tools that have existed just really haven't been good enough for me.
Mm-mm.
Like I did not feel comfortable. I certainly would have never like sent them to a client. Like they weren't good enough. And I think that that has actually changed. And when you're doing all of that work in a meeting, you're not participating in the content of the meeting. Like
no,
you are
just
not. Like, how do I keep this thing going? How do I make sure that everything is happening? And it's been, I've started using a tool called Granola that does a transcript of the meeting and then synthesizes that into notes. And it's been really helpful because I've been able to actually be present, like you said, and like participate in the meeting. The thing that I think people think that these tools are going to do, which is like, I don't have to pay attention in the meeting. I can just appear on screen, but you can't.
I think that's so funny. Someone at work was bemoaning the fact that like management, like we get double and triple booked sometimes. And I made the joke like, oh, we could just send in our AI clones or whatever. Completely unproductive comment. But no, I think like that's always like the thing, right? Like, oh, the robots are going to take over. They're going to do everything. But like, no, in this case, it's like, it's not that it's going to do my job for me. It's just going to allow me to be better and more present in the job that I want to do. Like, I want to be a part of the meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for all my years as a project manager, I was just always so annoyed because anytime I had to run the meeting and take notes of the meeting, you're doing a retrospective. As a project manager, I have interesting things to say, but like I really am not participating. And now I feel like I can participate. If you don't pay attention, then you run the risk of not being able to validate what has been transcribed. And like you might send out something that is incorrect. So it's like, we can be lazy. You might get caught. Because you do still have to do your job as human in the loop with these AI tools, right?
What are you doing if you're not like, I'm just going to send it in? This brings up like work feelings in general. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing if you don't want to passionately be involved in these? Like, just going to.
I mean, come on now. You have sat in plenty of meetings where you're like, this could have been an email,
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking like, I'm thinking of meetings like design thinking meetings where you're you know what I mean, where you want to participate, or like every perspective matters, even like the person who's supposedly like taking minutes or notes. Like we want to know what you're thinking too.
Yeah, absolutely. So that I think, when we're talking about things that have been transformative, I do think that has finally gotten to the point where it feels helpful and transformative. And I tried these tools out like, I don't know, a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And I was like, these are not there. Not working for me.
Yeah. The other thing that has been transformative for me personally is, I've been using Claude, but I know you can do this with ChatGPT as well is being able to upload my writing samples and then get, whatever it is. Like, I just used it yesterday to create a description of a meeting I wanted to put on a bunch of people's calendars, right? I want it in my voice. I don't want to think about it too hard. I can just go into the project I set up in Claude. It has my writing, old blog posts, and just samples of my writing. And it will, I can just be like, generate this. And it just sounds more like me,
It like gets you closer to where you can actually just work with it.
It might even say flashback. You know what I mean? It just sounds more like me. Am I authentic?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I think that's worth it. Half my brain now is like, how am I going to edit out that other part? But I think it's worth mentioning that, like, we use the paid version of ChatGPT, and I have a couple custom GPTs set up, and one of the ones is trained on all of our renditions of our talk. So we do some AI education, and every version is a little custom to the people that we are talking to. We had the opportunity to speak to Parent Heart Watch a couple weeks ago and help empower owners of nonprofits to understand what's happening with AI and how they might use it in their work. And anyway, so I have a custom GPT with like that content. It had our slides, it has like our scripts and whatever. And so it's really easy for us to then go in and like, maybe make a shorter version or ask it to help us refine one of the concepts we're working on, or something has changed. And it's just nice to have that all in one place and have that like little partner.
That's the thing that's like the tipping point for me. It's like that ability to customize. Like, I don't want to go in and get like random generated garbage. It's like that part, like where I've gone in and tweaked it to suit my needs, and I can reliably go in and kind of know the output I'm going to get out. Not perfect every time, but a lot closer than if I didn't use a project. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, to put a finer point on it, it's not like you're just taking that output and going and using it, right?
Never.
But it gets you closer to having it sound a little more like you, so you don't have to like go and remove all the 100 emojis. Apparently there's a M- controversy with ChatGPT.
It's like the content people are like, yes, M-dashes have a very valid place in writing. Like, has AI ruined it for us?
I feel like that's how I feel. I'm like, I love a good M-dash. Great. I gotta stop using them for a while.
Use it. No.
Cool. Well, I think this is our episode. I mean, it's worth mentioning that we have a very busy February as well. So hope to see our friends out and about.
Yeah, things are coming together. We have a coffee on the 14th. We have AI and education, exploring in education. We have a really good panel. I'm so excited for this panel.
Me too.
Just like all-star cast,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun turnout too, because I think we'll have more educators than we typically do, which makes sense. It's about education, but I think it's a different crowd. I'm really looking forward to it. We George Fox reached out to sponsor that event, which is really cool.
Shout out to George Fox. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Very very cool. Anyway, lots of really exciting things.
We'll have 2 cases of Diet Coke.
That's right. We will not run out of Diet Coke. That is absolutely right. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Supercharged by AI. Subscribe to get all the latest episodes, and check us out at aipdx.info for more information.